What's up, YouTube? 2 months ago, I started a commercial pilot program. I'm doing the program through Aeroguard. My plan is to use my GI Bill post 9/11 eventually. I can't use it right now because the VA won't pay for a private pilot license. So currently, I'm just paying out of pocket. But eventually, my plan is to use my post 9/11, and I'm going through Liberty University. So I'm getting a bachelor's degree from Liberty University in aviation, and then they provide a pathway for to become an ATP, to get your ATP certification, and then they do that through a flight affiliate. So I go to a flight affiliate here in Arizona, and then all of my online courses are done through Liberty University. So I'll have, you know, online homework through Liberty University, and then I'll have to go to Aeroguard, which is my flight affiliate, and that's where I do my actual training at. So I've been doing this for about 2 months now while working full time. It's been a journey. No, it's really been tough though. It has been the most busiest I have been in my entire life, especially, and when you add a girlfriend on top of it, you're only even busier. But props to her though for going through this with me. It has not been easy. I have not had a lot of time, and I have been very busy these last 2 months. I've gone from getting up at 5 a.m. to go to work, actually being at work at 5 a.m. Then for the first 8 weeks, I had 2 hours of ground school Monday through Thursday. So I'd go to that for 2 hours, and then I'd go back to work. And then once I got home, I would study. And then into the second week, I started mixing in flights in there. So, I'd have 2 hours of ground school and then maybe a 3 hour flight, and then I'd have to go back to work, catch up on everything on my desk, and be all stressed and shit. And that went on for 8 weeks. Luckily, ground school is over now and things are getting a little bit better, have a little bit more time, and things are just a little less fire hosey. At the beginning, especially when I was in ground school, everything was just coming at me like a million miles an hour. Things just wouldn't slow down. It was hard to have any ability to grasp something, to understand something, because things are moving so quickly. As soon as you start to understand one thing a little bit, all this other information is just being spewed at me. So it's just so frustrating and stressful, those 8 weeks of ground school. And since that's been over, things have been a little bit better, but with work full time, things are definitely still stressful. Like going back and forth between each one, and just not having the time that I know everybody else has to study and put into the program. But ultimately, I'm pretty grateful that I still have my job, since the GI Bill for the post 9/11 won't kick in for me until after I get my private pilot license. If I didn't have my job, I would essentially just be going along and okay, got to dip out of savings, got to, reduce my expenses to, practically zero, got to buy fucking ramen noodles and shit. I think ultimately it's such a blessing to be able to have this opportunity and to be able to have found this place, the place that I'm working at. They work with my schedule so well that I pretty much, whenever I need to fly, and this is a shitty thing about this flight training, is your schedule is only released at 5 p.m. the day before. So I don't know if I'm flying until, if I was flying tomorrow, I wouldn't know until 5 p.m. today, which is so shitty, and I don't know why they do that, but whatever. So I can't tell them until basically the night before, the day of, and they have worked with my schedule, seamlessly to that whenever I need to go, I pretty much just tell them like, hey, I have a flight from this time to this time, and then I get back when I can. I think my biggest saving grace in that is that I have just kept up with my work desk, and I'm a good worker and a hard worker, and I think that says a lot. Especially, I think most people just don't put their best foot forward. They're like, I think if you just work hard, you really put yourself in a position as a valuable asset as a business, and they don't want to give that up, especially if, I can keep up with my workload. So that's been such a blessing to be able to have income still coming in while I'm doing this. So when things started out 8 weeks ago, uh, they started out pretty shitty with my flight affiliate. The first instructor I was given was like a real shitbag. He didn't care about anything. I could tell that he wasn't teaching me enough information, but I didn't know what that was. And because I obviously don't know anything, but I can tell that he was just half-assing it. And then my 1.2 instruction that I went into, like my actual flight, was the instructor was like, "Why do you know any of this stuff? Didn't the first instructor go over this?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, he was a shitbag." And then I told him who it was, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that guy was fired." And then my preceding 4 or 5 flights, they kept pairing me with a different instructor each time. So I felt like I never had an instructor that grew to know me a little bit and like what I need to work on, and we never had like a relationship. So for my first 5 flights, I was just passed around. So I had this added stress that I was feeling really behind, which I probably still am a little bit, and I think work's a factor of that. But things are better now. I've had a dedicated flight instructor for about 10 flights now, and coming up on a stage check. I think next week I'll have my first stage check, which is essentially the first one is you're kind of just demonstrating the basics of flight. That you can do basic maneuvers, you can do ATC calls, you can take off, you can land, all that stuff. You're demonstrating that to an instructor. And then right after that, I'm going to do my first solo flight, which is crazy to think of for me. To think, just 2 months ago, I hadn't ever flown an airplane before. And now, 2 months ahead, I'm going to be flying an airplane by myself. It's just kind of mind-boggling that that's even possible. By doing the Liberty University route, it essentially just gives me extra homework, and I've had to do 2 ground schools. So I did a ground school with Aeroguard, my flight affiliate, and I also have to do an online ground school as well as other classes for my aviation bachelor's degree through Liberty. So it's like I have to balance these classes from Liberty that are online as well as like ground school and learning stuff at Aeroguard and keeping on top of that. I have to balance those 2 things, and then for me as well as work. I think even if I just didn't have the extra homework from the Liberty University side, that things would be a lot easier. There's been a lot of nights where I'm like, okay, I can finally catch up on studying. But then I realize, oh, no shit, I got a Liberty paper to write or this physics homework to do. So that doesn't help at all. But going this route by getting a bachelor's degree accompanied with your flight training, you can get an ATPR, which allows you to be able to apply for like a job at the airlines 500 hours sooner than what most people can. So normally it's 1,500 hours, but if you do it like this, you can do it at 1,000 hours. So that is one of the major benefits, but honestly, the only reason I'm really doing it is because of the GI Bill. It's one of the few ways to get good funding from the post 9/11 for flight training. So it's just kind of the way you have to do it. Otherwise, I don't know if this whole route would be worth it. I don't know. We'll see in the future whether it pans out or not. Through the first 6 weeks, I would say, when I started this. I think it was like every day I was having questions like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What the fuck am I doing? Because it's really just like I was thrown out of a comfort zone. The place that I work at now, I'm kind of in a comfort zone with it. I'm making enough money to where like I'm comfortable, I can do things. I had time after work, time to myself, comfortable schedule. And then all of a sudden I'm thrown into this, you know, abyss of being busy and just not having time for myself ever. And I think that really like jumbled me. And I had thoughts, I feel like almost every day, of what are you doing? Like, just quit. Just, you don't need to do this anymore. This is stupid. It's going to take too long. Like, right now I'm paying money out of pocket. It's like I'm paying money out of pocket. You don't have time for my girlfriend. Like, things are so stressful. You don't have time for yourself. Maybe you should just quit. I had those thoughts, I think, every day. And again, shout out to my girlfriend for really, I feel like she took the brunt of that sometimes. But things have definitely gotten better, and I think will continually will. I think this is just a part of starting something new, and especially something that's difficult. It's hard not to be comfortable. It's difficult to be uncomfortable. We naturally want to be comfortable, and then starting a new thing is just it's just something that's foreign. So I don't know. I think that I haven't integrated this pilot, like being a pilot, that this is in my life. I haven't integrated this into who I am yet. So it's something that's easier to resist, and I think until that, this is what makes starting new hobbies so hard, is because, or one of the things is that it's hard to change the concept of who you are in your mind. So when you start a new hobby, your first thought is kind of like, this isn't me, I'm an imposter, kind of like imposter syndrome. But as you keep doing it, that goes away more and more, I think. As I integrate that into who I am, that will diminish. But of course, there's always going to be these thoughts. I think that's normal. There's always going to be doubts. Hopefully not as rough as it was the first few weeks, dear God. But I think that this is a worthy goal, and that it's going to be worth it in the end. Like, it's a little shitty right now, and I don't have as much time right now. But that's what sacrifices are. You make choices, make sacrifices, as one of my friends says. And even more so than that, what has kept me going is thinking about working at the place is just thinking about working at the place that I'm working at right now for the next 30 years. Not that it's a bad place to work, but I'm just not a person that's going to sit behind a desk for the next 30 years. And thinking about that is just like, it uh, it makes me think of the Matthew McConaughey meme from Dallas Buyers Club, when he just learns that he has AIDS, and he's sitting in his car and he's crying like, and then the writing on it says, me pulling up to work realizing I have another 30 years of this. Another 30 years of this. I didn't want that to be me, but I could really relate to that. And I don't want to be doing that desk job, for the next 30 years. And that's really the thing that has kept me going when I think about that. Just knowing that this desk job doesn't fit me, like, it's just not for me. And it's serving me a purpose, and I think there's things that I've learned from it and I've grown from it, but it's not what I want to do. So ultimately, it's like I can't just go back to that. But that's about it. This is just a quick 2 month update. If you're a veteran and you're interested or thinking about doing a commercial pilot program or flight training, subscribe and follow. This can give you a good peek into what training's going to be like. But yeah, peace.